This is the nature of things. More and more people are moving into cities. And with this expansion come incredible demands on the urban environment. Can we make our cities livable in the long term?
Well, this is pleasant.
It's very pleasant.
Smart transit, sustainable housing, new systems for food, public works, and energy. We know they're all critical for a city to grow and stay healthy.
But with so many people, how do we protect the air, the water, the soil? That's the challenge.
If a city is neglected and fails to adapt and evolve, it will stagnate, decline, and fade.
We need a new vision, an opportunity for cities to reinvent themselves. Will Canadian cities be ready for the future? More than 80% of Canadians now live in an urban setting. And I think across this country, people living in urban areas often feel, well, there aren't any solutions, there aren't any answers out there. What I hope by going on this trip is that by showing concrete things, not just what governments or businesses are doing, but that ordinary people are also part of the transformation.
I'm really excited to see what Canada has to offer in terms of what cities are doing to be more sustainable. I want to be proud of my country, and I want to see what some of the examples are for Canadians going in a more progressive way.
The way that we're traveling across Canada in this biodiesel retrofitted trailer teaches you, you got limits. You can't just keep fouling that little living space. So I think it's a very good metaphor for the challenge that we face on the entire planet. So this is a good way to travel.
Living in this Airstream, being in a confined space, we're gonna be confronted with what a city might have to be confronted with: space, how we get around, waste, water, energy. How's that look?
Good. I love the opportunity to travel with my daughter for weeks on end. We get along like gangbusters, so it's a great time for me.
Our first stop as we travel east to west is La Belle Province.
I've never spent much time in Montreal. It seems like a very vibrant, happening place.
Montreal. When I think of Montreal, I think of nightclubs, I think of music, I think of restaurants.
I'm interested in finding out if a city can create its own food production and distribution system. So Dad is treating me on our first night in town.
Bon appétit. Merci.
Tomorrow we explore the world of urban agriculture. First up, we are headed into the heart of the city, to McGill University.
See, this is Jean Drapeau Park, which is where we are here.
Right.
And then McGill University is over there.
Got it.
And then there's Habitat here, Sri. See how they're all different?
All the gardens, too.
Well, this is great, eh? Having a separate lane.
Enjoyable. Dad's 75 now.
This is what we need.
As he's getting older, he really wants to focus on the big picture.
Or anything, then we're just like Copenhagen.
I am kind of interested in grassroots local initiatives.
So we're visiting the edible campus at McGill University, which yields 1 ton of produce a year.
Works.
A youth-driven organization called Centre Paul Roulant distributes McGill's harvest to people in need in the downtown. Their director of sustainability, Tim Murphy, is showing us around.
Welcome. Welcome to our garden. This is the Edible Campus Garden. It's a partnership we have with the School of Architecture here. We are in a public space, and McGill is a really beautiful campus, so a lot of the work we did with the School of Architecture is designing the space, making it not only useful, but like beautiful. We need to look at all the spaces that we have that could be put to better use. So parking lots, balconies, staircases, things like this big concrete plaza. We get peppers and hot peppers.
Yeah.
We use all the produce through different Centre programs. So our organization has a really well-reputed Meals on Wheels program for people living with a loss of autonomy. They receive our hot meals 5 days a week.
Oh, that's really good.
The transformation that I see in Montreal is incredible.
That's about ready, yeah. These are the last few.
Now people are saying, we don't have to bring food in from the countryside. We're going to grow it right in the city.
Well, maybe we should harvest a few more, and you can come back to the Centre kitchen and volunteer.
Oh, okay.
That's a good idea.
I'm into it.
And at their nearby headquarters, Centre Paul Rouland's own rooftop gardens will yield another 2 tons of vegetables.
Nice.
Their harvest is turned into healthy meals for their citywide members.
There's something really nice about being raised above, you know, all that traffic and congestion. And so I need to sign up.
You should sign your name, so...
We are Friday. So there's the garden at Miguel, and there's green room here. But then there's some other gardens as well that you get vegetables from?
Actually, a few volunteers started a project called Les Jardins Suspendus, or hanging gardens. Nice. They found some people in the plateau who have fruit trees but don't have the capacity to be picking the fruit. So they made an agreement with those folks. They would come volunteer to harvest the fruit, and that a third of it would go to us. We'd use it in our kitchen. A third of it would go back to the volunteers, and another third back to the property owners.
And the fruit would otherwise go to waste.
Exactly.
And they're salvaging it. That's wonderful. Okay, that took me that entire time to do 1 carrot. You probably can do it in 20 seconds.
You can take the meals, and I'll take the vegetables.
Wow.
Right, ready?
Ready?
Let's go.
I think volunteerism is one of the most important things that we can do, and especially in a city, I think everybody should be involved in some way. It was neat to see all these young people so involved with their communities. Hi, Miss Wong.
This is Sarika.
Nice to meet you. They're creating a social dimension that isn't just about the food, but it's about getting to know your neighborhood.
Vous allez bien, madame? Est-ce que vous avez les légumes? Bon, ben merci.
Okay, au revoir.
Bonne fin de journée.
I'm making eggs with the vegetables that I got from Centre Paul.
That's great.
Uh-oh, we're really running low on water now. But you got enough water for coffee?
Yeah.
And they have about 10 or 11 staff, I think, but the rest are volunteers.
Wow. Oh, so this is not a small outfit.
No, it's really grown.
All right. Cafe?
Yes, please. Oh, you see how strong your coffee is?
Yes, I like strong coffee.
Wow.
De beurre. Il faut parler français parce que nous sommes au Québec. Great. Thank you. But the challenge really is at 12 months a year. If Saint-Tropez is on it,
Centre Paul, yeah.
can hook up with something like Lufa Farms, and you can have local, fresh food year-round, which is quite a thing in Canada. But very, very exciting.
I don't know anything about Lufa.
Lufa Farm is a multi-million-dollar greenhouse. They don't use pesticides, they don't use traditional fertilizers, and it's constructed on a massive industrial rooftop.
Holy.
The first of its kind in the world.
4 years ago, we started working on developing the concept for an urban farm. It's such a complicated project. We had to bring in architects, engineers, communication experts, legal experts, insurance experts. We had to go for a 1.5 year zoning change and permit process. We had to find a contractor and a supplier willing to take on this project, and all to grow tomatoes. And we believe that the way to feed 7 billion is to really look very deep into what's available in terms of technologies. We believe that they're just as nutritious as what's grown in soil, because it's very rare to find a soil that's perfect in its constituents of nutrients. But in hydroponics, we're able to give the plants what they need.
Right now, what we're actually working on is developing the optimum formulation for multiple crops. If you've got tomato and eggplant on the same irrigation system, how do you tweak the nutrient formulation? And they have very different needs sometimes. So we have to find a way to strike a balance so that they both grow optimally, even though they're on the same solution. In here, all the plants are grown in coconut fiber, which is just ground up coconut husk.
So why are coconut husks
a good substrate to grow plants in.
Just because it works really well, it keeps the right moisture levels, not too dense. Oxygenation is also important. And then everything is top irrigated. The nutrient formulation is fed in through these lines. Anything that trickles out the bottom of the bag is collected in the troughs on the side here and runs back down to the basement where it all loops back up.
Well, that's real recycling, that.
And what's this mist that we keep feeling?
It's to keep the humidity up in this crop. One of the pest problems we've had is spider mites, and they don't do well at high humidity.
It's so impressive to see the size of a plant.
They grow like crazy. It's like 6 feet a week, I think.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Whatever you're feeding them, they seem to be doing pretty well.
So these are our 3 batch tanks, one for each irrigation system.
Huge vat.
Goes up to the greenhouse from these tanks.
The exact details of their nutrient and irrigation system are top secret, but we convinced Lauren to show us around.
It's filtered before it enters the tank.
So every day we harvest about 200 heads of lettuce for 200 baskets. Just hold them up a little bit to drain them. And we take them to our harvest station.
Okay.
These are so perfect.
Hey, you're a farmer now.
Oh, yeah.
The reason we have so many different crops is on a daily basis we harvest a little bit of everything, and the baskets are assembled with vegetables harvested the same day. We have about 36 drop points around Montreal, and as we have more greenhouses, we'll have more drop points.
Hey, speed it up, Dad.
Okay, here we go. A huge advantage of being able to deliver to your local community is you don't have to worry about storage and shippage, a food system in which we have to bring food from 4,000 miles away is crazy as, oil prices skyrocket. So this, it seems to me, is a part of what we should be looking towards food security in the future. Oh, thank you.
You can't be eating on the job.
You have to nourish your workers.
It's only when you farm better and farm locally using no land and you have a direct link with the consumer that you're truly able to revolutionize the food production system and potentially change the world of agriculture.
Most of those people, all of them, were young people. These are young, smart, urban kids, and they're rediscovering agriculture.
Yeah, and from the sounds of it, people want to be involved in this project.
Yeah.
But I'm really excited to see some of the amazing changes happening along the unknown and forgotten parts of Toronto's waterfront.
The Quebec-Toronto, Windsor-Detroit corridor is one of the most important arteries for transporting people and goods anywhere in the world. And we'll experience it firsthand as we travel west along the 401, the busiest highway in North America.
We're driving on the 401, we're entering Toronto, and I just couldn't believe the number of massive trucks that were whizzing by us.
Oh man, I'm glad you're driving. Thank you. Did I almost hit a truck?
That would have made the headlines.
Oil truck tries to take Suzuki out.
Yikes.
Look at all the cars converging here.
Toronto has the worst average commute time in North America, 80 minutes.
We ought to be ashamed. Surely the challenge should be, let's cut back on how much time you have to commute. That's crazy. The place where we'll be camping is, in a way, kind of an abandoned area in the heart of the city. And I guess there's a lot of pressure to move everybody back into the city. People have begun to realize what a tremendous, opportunity it is. These are great pictures.
Man, look at the definition here.
This area at one time was a thriving industrial area. The problem is a lot of it's been badly polluted. It's a brownfield. People have dumped stuff. So that's going to be expensive to get rid of that. And then the question is, how do you develop this?
Right.
So the fate of this area is going to be very, very interesting. Now, as you look towards us in the middle of the city, on the water, this land is worth a lot of money now.
Yeah. So you've never been down here before?
Not really along here, no. But this is... Waterfront Toronto is an organization that is halfway through a 25-year plan to revitalize areas along Lake Ontario. It's the largest urban renewal project in North America. Sugar Beach, a former parking lot, is just one of their award-winning designs. So this is the sugar plant here. Apparently you can smell the sugar. That would be okay.
Oh, really?
We're excited to see some of their projects to attract families back into the downtown.
John Campbell, the president of Waterfront Toronto, is giving us a tour. Here's our reception committee. I met Sarika, John, and James.
We're trying to find a way to say, how can we create great urban spaces and great green spaces that people can actually live and raise their families here in a downtown environment? We really want to set a very high standard for sustainability. Things like 33% tree canopy coverage, for example. Those kinds of things are built into our sustainability framework, which guides both the designers and the constructors of what we're doing. All this area to the west of us, right into downtown, is under a flood risk. So we haven't been able to develop here until we resolve the flooding issue in this part.
So the primary purpose of this hill is really to function as a berm to protect against a possible catastrophe.
Yes.
We're in a highly industrialized area and basically going to have to reinvent a natural system.
Yeah.
The marsh on this park is part of a closed system of drainage within the park. So the drainage does not go back to the city. It's kept on site, stored on site, UV treated and used for irrigation throughout the park as well.
This is really interesting to me because if I were to look out, and I'm clearly not a planner or anything, I wouldn't choose this area as a place to put a park.
This is the central block of Underpass Park, and this is an area that was at one time more of a negative space. Parking lot, auto body shop, and now we're taking it back and reinventing the space, transforming the space into public realm.
Never seen anything like it.
Do the overhang, Sarika. You can do it.
Right, and these steel toes.
Like Sugar Beach, you're celebrating the industrial heritage. In this respect, you're celebrating the infrastructure, celebrating these kind of moments within the city.
Well, this is a free roof.
Yeah, see, that's how you have to look at things, right? They're saying eventually the trees are going to grow so high that you can imagine if you're in a car, you look out.
Nice, I like that.
It's just got to really be a community that we build, that people of all shapes, sizes, ages, income levels can live there, can walk there, can shop there, work there, without having to commute 50 miles to go to work.
Wow, what a difference.
Yeah. It's coming along.
This is Sherburne Common. It's a 4-acre park in the center of the East Bayfront district along the Waterfront Toronto. The park is designed based on 3 elements. One is lawn, one is the wooded kind of grove, and the third most important feature is water.
Whoa, this looks like a movie set.
Yeah.
This facility takes the future stormwater for the precinct and also lake water, brings it through piping an open lawn, through some wet wells, and will be flowing through a series of UV lights. And then the water gets pumped to the raised pools, and it is daylighted at the public art by an artist from Vancouver named Jill Anthold, where then it goes through further biofiltration planting into a lower channel back to Lake Ontario. Well, we've seen that the water quality in the inner harbor has improved over the last few years based on development we've done. We're cleaning the water, we have species of plant material coming back again, and fish that we haven't seen in years.
Makes a lot of sense. This is education about water, right? The sources of our water, the way it's treated, and I think it's really important that we make that transition from thinking it's just where you dump your garbage or your waste into something we honor and celebrate.
It's very much a precedent for parks and landscape architecture and public space throughout the city of Toronto and throughout Canada as well. Build the infrastructure, you build the parks, and then you begin to build development around the park over time.
What I saw in the downtown Portlands area is an incredible opportunity. People love to be near water, they love nature. That can become a radical transformation over time, and that to me is very exciting. Because it's not just the development that's important, it's the mindset underlying the way that we develop the city.
We really have to think about what makes us happy, what's a healthy lifestyle, and kind of re-envision what we want to be living in.
As we attempt to attract people back to the city, I think our neighborhoods have to include nature. That's going to happen throughout the city so that we can re-engage our children with the natural world. The renaissance of the historic Brickworks factory has led to a rediscovery of Toronto's ravine system. So it's a contrast, hey, with the old brickworks, and then here's this valley.
Sure is.
So this apparently was the area where they dug out all the mud, so it went down pretty deep.
Oh, look.
Oh, right.
Turtles.
Those are painted turtles.
Oh, that's great.
This location really came onto the map because of its geological heritage. It had a lot of clay here. And so this became a brick manufacturing facility, and in its heyday it was the largest of its kind in Canada, over 40 million bricks a year.
Wow.
It was in production until the mid-1980s, and then at that point there was not enough clay to keep up production, and it was abandoned for over 20 years. Evergreen created a multifaceted place in this old brick factory. It's a brown field, so we've had to build on top of contaminated soil. We've created an office space for our own organization and for other nonprofit organizations, and a few small green private sector organizations like the ones that are doing the electric car infrastructure. You can go and see the old kilns that are football field in length. So we're very interested in the health of the whole watershed. And you see the etchings here are actually some of the streams and creeks that run through the downtown area.
So Sarika, what does that kind of remind you of?
Well, when you look at it, you see veins, right? That's exactly what you think of.
Right.
You see how much the city's sort of a living city underneath it. Toronto has the largest ravine system in the world. You know, it's almost the underworld that's forgotten.
Oh, you can see the students.
That's what I used to do when I was a kid.
Yeah, bringing back memories.
I loved seeing that class.
Maybe.
Yeah. Who wants to hold it?
Seeing the children here, you know, they're going to educate their parents as well. I think it's great to see the long-term value of this that transcends pure economics. I think it's inspiring for us. This is Canada's biggest city. And look, in the heart of the city, you've got this. Wow.
I always thought of Toronto as the big, bustling, happening city. I never would have thought of it as a sustainable city. So I'm really impressed that that's actually happening. So how old were you when you moved here?
I guess I was 1940. I wanted Sarika to see London and Leamington, where I grew up, and also to experience nearby Windsor and Detroit. Detroit is kind of bound at the hip to Canada. I mean, it is our close neighbor here. Detroit shares a waterway with Canada, with Windsor and Sarnia and so on. We have tunnels and bridges across. Detroit grew up basically as a one-industry city. And in many ways, Detroit, I think, becomes a warning of the hazards of this thoughtless kind of development. Architect Chris Marcinkowski is meeting us back on our side of the border to reveal some imaginative and ambitious ideas that could pave the way for North American cities to adapt and flourish. So what's wrong with cities in North America today?
The problem is that you can't talk about vision now. When you talk about big visions, the assumption is that it's bureaucratic, it's authoritarian, it's top-down, and there isn't this sort of ambition anymore about what cities can do and what cities can become. And so I think now what we have to do is really look at what are the things that we perceive as being negative, but that we could actually maybe tap into and reframe, leverage into something positive. You know, we have a project that we were working on that was looking at sources of greenhouse gas production, and the fact that you could use carbon dioxide actually as a building block of something rather than something that was destroying the environment. And so the basic idea is that there are all these different point sources of carbon. And so one of the things that we've looked at is things like vehicular tunnels of at least 2,000 feet, one of which is the Detroit-Windsor tunnel that we have right here.
That's right under us here.
That's right under us right here. They all have to be ventilated. They all have to evacuate the airflow through them. If we were able to just capture a little bit of that carbon dioxide, we could actually use it to fuel an agricultural production of algae, either for nutraceuticals, food, biofuels.
CO2 plus sunlight, perfect breeding ground for algae.
Absolutely. But instead of taking that industrial process and putting it on the outskirts of the city, like we tended to do in the 20th century, to actually put that in the middle of the city. And then take the infrastructure that's required to actually capture and hold and deliver the carbon and turn that into an amenity for the city that actually improves the quality of life of the place.
But this is the vision. I mean, we can see that the people are using this as a public space.
Right. So we had this idea that it would somehow move.
Oh.
And the reality is that the system would work whether that thing was fixed or not, and can really work in any configuration. But this idea of reusing infrastructure is essential, and this idea, again, of spectacle.
We've got to learn to imitate nature,
Right.
where there is no such thing as waste.
Right.
I mean, one organism's excretion becomes another organism's opportunity.
Exactly.
And when we talk about sustainability of cities, I mean, that really is the definition of a sustainable city.
Should be.
It's an opportunity. I love that idea.
We're
It's
already...
going to be a long trip now. We're going to Edmonton, right?
I know.
Yeah.
I haven't spent any time in Alberta before, so this is going to be interesting for me.
And wait till you see what they do with their garbage. A city has demands very much like our individual demands. You gotta fuel the body, you gotta fuel the demands of a city. We then ultimately have to deal with our waste. I first heard about Edmonton's waste crisis many, many years ago. Nobody wanted to take Edmonton's garbage. And so out of that came this recognition, we got to deal with our waste ourselves, and that everyone has a part to play. Wow, look at all the solar panels there.
Local architect Shafraz Kaba is taking recycling to a whole new level.
Every architect's dream is sort of to design their own house. So it's almost everything in the house has a story. So for example, this dark wood on the side, this is carbonized wood. It's an opportunity to use pine beetle kill that's devastated Alberta and BC forests.
Yeah, there's a lot of that wood around.
We put any type of wood in this specialized vacuum kiln, so it takes all the oxygen out of it and it bakes the wood through and through, essentially. It gives it a property that hopefully will not rot. So we're testing it out for the Canadian climate. We were trying to find interesting ways to reuse everything we possibly could that would have gone typically to the landfill. This is actually the back of a church pew. I was able to use here as door casings and benches for the window
Nice wood.
seats.
I mean, I wonder whether you can get this quality of wood today. Exactly. So I really think a lot of the future for really high quality wood is going to be taking out of old buildings. And
Yeah.
And all these are the pew benches?
Yeah. So we wanted to take advantage of the deep window sills.
It's grooved, I know, it's perfect.
They had to make church, I guess, comfortable. We've reclaimed a lot of stuff from a house that was going to be demolished. One of the things that would have gone to the landfill is a cast iron sink here, which weighs about 200 pounds. I got a cast iron bathtub, and I picked up 25 solid core dug for doors.
Wow.
So all of those
For nothing.
For nothing.
Jeez.
This is a reclaimed gym flooring from a school that was getting rid of their gym. We thought it would be really cool to leave the gym lines, because this is our homeschooling space, actually. So I think I'm gonna put you to work.
Wow, is that hard?
So press it against and
Press
then
it
pull
against.
the trigger. Awesome.
Whoa.
That's it?
Yeah, that's it.
I've never done that, Sarika. Let me try.
Okay.
Oh, he's a pro.
He's showing off.
Yeah.
What do you mean? You've got a spectacular view of the valley,
Yeah.
but you also have this.
That was the clincher. For me, that is Edmonton with the river, the valley, the park, and then the refinery. For me, it's almost poetic. We're pointing our solar panels right at the refineries, right? In an interesting gesture.
You can't give them the fickle finger, but you can show them your photovoltaics.
Exactly. This is the future. Get used to it.
One person can make a huge difference. Imagine what a whole city can do. Edmonton's waste management site aims to keep over 90% of all household waste out of landfill within the next few years. No other Canadian city is as efficient or as forward-thinking in dealing with their garbage. I don't know why, Sarika. I feel really sad here being
What do you
here.
mean?
Well, because a few years ago, these must have been state-of-the-art. People proudly put them in their homes, and then they end up in this kind of ignominious pile to be
Yeah, well,
to be
this is what
junked.
happens on the good side of things. Most people probably throw it in the landfill, right?
Yes, in the old days, this all went into landfill. The site started out as a landfill site back in 1975, and then In the 90s, we knew we were going to be getting near capacity, and then that started the city on a large diversion program. It's about a 550-acre site. We're building a future waste-to-biofuels facility. We collect landfill gas from the landfill, and it produces about 4.8 megawatts through engines that we have on site. We're kind of a one-stop shop for waste.
This is a busy place. So this is primarily TVs then?
Yes, that area is just for the cathode ray tube with the old style TVs.
I see.
They don't want to smash up the CRT, they want to remove it whole. So they'll dismantle all the plastic, the printed circuit boards, they'll pull out the yoke, that's the back copper piece at the end. So everything gets segregated, and at the end you just have this glass piece.
Now, is that because the cathode ray tube has got mercury or some...
It's got a lot of lead in it.
So lead.
I think it's over 10 to 15 pounds of lead in that tube.
Really?
This is the start of our recycling process, and they're running 13 to 15 tons an hour through, so that line is moving.
So how much did you say was newsprint?
About 70% of what's going in. So by far, paper is the largest commodity.
Those are all trees.
There's 5 things you pick on this line. Cardboard, boxboard, plastic, garbage, and rigid.
Okay.
So each one has to go in an individual bucket.
Oh, I keep missing it.
Go.
Yeah.
Edmonton is leading the way of thinking about waste. It's a resource.
It's the largest composter in North America. We produce about 60,000 tons of compost a year.
60,000 tons.
Holy! Look at it all.
It creates jobs, reduces the emissions into the atmosphere.
This is the biggest mound of compost I've ever seen.
And you can recover useful things out of it, like soil, like energy.
This is our finished fluff feedstock from our recycling facility. It's a mixture of mixed plastics and mixed papers that are screened out from the process.
Right. Now, this is the end product of that whole separation shredding process, but it is now fuel or fodder for something else?
Yes. This is the future of thermal waste management. So the material from the processing line that we were in prior goes through a bubbling bed gasifier, which is the largest vertical structure there, where it runs at about 750 degrees Celsius. So we're getting it down to a gaseous phase first. We actually scrub the CO2 out. So it's really a CO2 neutral project at the end, and that CO and hydrogen, the gas, gets converted to a liquid, methanol in our case. So it's kind of the holy grail of technologies. This really is the future. The past is out across the way, our old landfill that is now shut down. So.
Energy from garbage. This has just turned my crank.
What are you doing?
I'm studying my French. Hi.
Edmonton's youngest and greenest councillor, Don Iveson, paid us a surprise visit.
This is kind of a theme that Dad and I have noticed, you know, from all the different cities that we've been to. It's especially a youth-driven thing. Young people want to see change.
The reason why 89% of Edmontonians recycle is because their kids hold their parents accountable. You know, grade 4 children have been coming out to the Waste Management Center for decades. So some of it's generational and cultural, and some of it is through really good social marketing, which Waste Management has been doing really, really well here in Edmonton for a very long time. You know, this whole facility has been really 25 years or more in the making, and it indicates that it does take a generation sometimes to make meaningful change.
That's a great story. How long a trip is it back into town on your bike?
It's going to be a long ride, but it's World Car Free Day, so I figured we better...
That's right. Okay.
Better honor that.
Thanks for coming out.
This is my pleasure. Thanks so much.
You hear so much about the economy is so important, we can't afford to do this or that, but
yeah,
the city's got no one to pass it on to. So you've got to deal with a lot of these big issues.
But I do like how we've seen each city do things uniquely.
Yeah.
There hasn't been one method that they're all trying to implement.
Exactly.
I'm kind of nervous about going back to Vancouver because we've seen such great things, and Vancouver's supposed to be the greenest city in Canada, so if it doesn't...
Well, that'll be good if we can say to the people in Vancouver, hey, look,
Yeah.
you think you're good, but gosh, I have been so excited and inspired by what we've seen on this trip.
I'm glad.
It's really very uplifting.
Wow, Dad, you're getting all spiritual in your old age. I was sorry to say goodbye to our trusty trailer in Alberta, but I can't wait to fall asleep in my own bed tonight. So nice to be here. It's not even raining.
Transit is key to the sustainable development of any city. And my friend Sadhu Johnston is meeting us at the airport to outline this connection. He was Chicago's highly successful environmental chief and now has a similar role with the city of Vancouver.
How's your trip?
It's been a long but
absolutely
exciting.
Yeah. Because everyone always says, what's the greenest city? And it's like, there are amazing green solutions in virtually every city you go to. And that's what's so exciting. Hop on the Canada line, we'll head into downtown.
Right.
Nice. I haven't ridden this thing yet.
Nor I.
50% of the riders on the Canada line are new to transit. It was built to have an expected ridership of about 100,000 a day by 2013, and we exceeded that within year one. And the Canada line has provided an opportunity for us to rezone the entire corridor to build density in those areas, and the residents were overwhelmingly supportive of that. They recognize if you got a transit line, that is the place to build density.
Here you're creating a pathway to allow for more urban housing.
Definitely, and it's not just the urban core. The suburban areas are building more densely around their transit nodes as well. About 12 years ago, the city passed a new transportation plan, a 10-year transportation plan. And for the first time, the plan fundamentally said, we're not going to build our city for the car. And so they reprioritized, and they said, our first priority in the way that we design and build and maintain our city is the pedestrian. And then it's the bike. And then it's transportation, public transportation. And then it's the private car. All these new developments that I talked about that we're building on the Canada line and other neighborhoods, transit-oriented developments, we see those as almost eco-hubs. They can be places that can serve the rest of the neighborhood, not just for transit, but for energy as well. At the Olympic Village stop here, we recently built a district energy system. This is the first sewer heat system in North America. Well, we can take that heat out of the sewer water, and we're using it to heat the entire Olympic Village and then the entire neighborhood around it.
This is the Canby Bridge. You see those pipe-like things sticking up? Under that is where that heat removal from the warm sewage water is taking place.
Oh, the Sadhu mentioned.
Yeah. So it's kind of nice like Sherburne Commons. You remember the water system that became a piece of art?
It's pretty great. I thought a good place for us to start is at the University of British Columbia, my alma mater. It's setting new standards in green design and smart city building. Up first, Dad and I want to check out their future district energy plant, powered by local wood waste.
It's a very unique kind of combined heat and power plant. That's really the innovative part of this project.
A double bang for your buck, which is great.
And I think what's special about it is that it's right here on the campus of the University of British Columbia. Wood waste, and particularly in urban areas, is still a significant component of what goes into the landfill. And so we're diverting it into our facility, converting it through our gasification process into a synthetic gas, which we put into high-efficiency gas engines that produce electricity and heat. And the heat's used to heat the campus, and the electricity is used to offset the power that the university buys from the power company.
So how much carbon does that save from being emitted?
By the greenhouse gas calculation, about 5,000 tons a year.
5,000 tons, that's a lot.
So I just worry, are people going to be tempted to cut down perfectly healthy trees and use them as fuel?
The costs associated with harvesting and chipping and transporting trees, I think, would be prohibitive. Residuals or waste is inexpensive, and a big part of the economics of a plant like this is the cost of the fuel.
We can't leave without visiting UBC's newly minted Center for Interactive Research and Sustainability.
So tell us, what was the concept behind the building?
Well, the basic idea was, could we build a building that actually isn't just less bad, reducing damage, but actually gives back, contributes in a positive way, both to the biophysical environment, also to the human environment. So what that means is adding a building to the UBC campus actually reduces UBC's energy use, reduces UBC's carbon emissions. We have the most ambitious climate change targets of any of the top 40 universities in the world. UBC has 400 buildings, 400 hectares, about 15 million square feet. Take 400 buildings downtown Vancouver, how many owners do you have to get on board to try and make a change? We can act. I think that's the challenge of our time. If everything we do does damage, then we're in big trouble. But if things we do can actually make things better, wow, how cool is that?
CIRS is not only a high-performance building, it's also a hub for progressive ideas. Their new interactive planning tool lets residents visualize future development ideas for their neighborhoods.
I want to do the Chinatown mixed-use mid-rise.
Okay.
Alrighty, there you go.
I think the West 10th Mid-Rise Co-op would be a nice...
There you go.
Okay.
Normally, we would try to put mixed-use buildings along the major arterial streets.
My God, it's like Lego blocks. You can actually fit them together.
And the city wanted to look at its zoning from the point of view of being supportive of district energy systems all along the Cambie corridor. So what they wanted to rehearse with the community is these building types are sufficiently dense from a jobs and population point of view, but also have sufficient thermal usage that you could rationalize economically putting in a district energy plant.
The building you put on, Sarika, has 179 residents, 11 jobs, and it's a 9-story building. We could put a row house beside it just so we can compare them. So one of them has 179, one of them has 15 people living in it. So there's a huge density difference there.
What I love about this is that it really gives them a chance as citizens to define what it is about their area that they like and to try to protect those values as they go into the future.
Laneway houses are starting to pop up all around Vancouver, thanks to a new city bylaw.
There it is.
Nice little day.
Thank you.
Vancouver's the one that's really done this almost blanket zoning where they're allowing it in just about all the single-family home neighborhoods in the city. There's probably been about 300 permits that have gone out, so this hasn't been tried on the scale that Vancouver is trying. Laneway housing is a great way to infill a space, create a little bit more density, but also not completely change the nature of a neighborhood. You know, not everybody wants to live in condos, not everybody wants to live in towers, so they're trying to find different ways to help neighborhoods densify in a way that's really appropriate for the space.
So it's a 33-foot lot, so you're allowed a 500 square foot home.
500 square feet, that's small.
Right. Yeah. It's much bigger than I thought it would be.
Well, I grew up in a family of 6 with less than 1,000 square feet.
Okay.
Well, the average home being built in Canada now has 1 bathroom per person living in it, right?
It looks like you have everything you need. It's just really efficiently set up.
It's good, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, they've only been here for a couple of months.
That's what I mean.
Those blackberries are still ripe. I once bought water beetles to eat.
This is my vision. If I could have any, it would be that we're living in cities, we have all that diversity and culture and infrastructure, transportation technology, but we also are in nature and we're interacting with it, we're engaging with it, we are part of it every single day.
People are ready to make changes, but they don't know what's possible. So I hope that that by our looking just a tiny bit at what's going on, people will realize there are lots of solutions out there. It just takes the will to get started, I think.
So it was really neat for me to kind of see what young people are doing across the country to become engaged and make their cities more livable.
I cling to hope. Nature's got a lot of surprises, and if we give her room, pull back and give her some space, she may be far more forgiving than we deserve. So that gives me great hope.